something about this Lake Michigan and this water for these Chicago kids. But today's guest is none other than the one and only Doug Infinite, also known as Doug M. A lot of people know you, from the dynamic duo of you and No ID, starting out doing this music production things. Probably a lot of folks know you as the master of the B-side. The comment that we love, really comes from the cooking of the tracks that you've produced. But we're really excited to reintroduce you to a lot of folks who haven't seen you in a little bit, but also introduce you to some generations that might not know the name, the sound behind some of hip-hop's greatest hits. Welcome to Vinyl to Viral, Doug Infinite.
Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me, Q and Bobbie. Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Nah, man, we couldn't get this debut season without you on it, man. When I started to think about music and having a mind to come and bless our audience with, you were the one that I definitely wanted to get on it above anyone else within our circle. Our circle is pretty big, but our circle is also tight. So again, we really appreciate you for coming in.
Yeah, I rock with the Vinyl to Viral. That's what I love.
Yeah, we're gonna say a little bit more about that too, the touches you put on this. But let me start by taking you back home. Recently, I was watching an episode of All the Smoke, right, with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson, and it was wild because the big point guy, the OG Andre Miller, from his playing days at University of Utah and in Portland, he started to talk about things he did outside the court instead of going to the clubs. And the one thing he talked about in this episode was going to Rainbow and skating being his thing, right? So I know, you know a little bit about that, but can you talk to us about the skate culture in Chicago and how it evolved in the skateboarding and the huge role you played into it?
Oh man, I would love to. Wow, you brought up Rainbow. Rainbow is, I would say, and I'm gonna like to say this, the Rainbow roller skating rink in many ways, before I even ever roller skated at Rainbow skating rink, they used to have a skateboard arena in there. They had a ramp that was shaped like half of a peel, like a capsule was just a half of a peel like that, and it was clear. And this was early skateboarding. There wasn't even really any tricks. It was like teams and downhill type of skating. But all the first generation skaters kind of went to Rainbow. Then again, visited Rainbow because it was a breakdance mecca. I mean, to have all that wood right there, and it was located right there on the right side of town. There was a lot of early pioneers of the b-boy culture that were just, Rainbow was a place to meet. And then again, later in my life, once we opened up the skateboard shop in Forest City Mall and in the basement down there, and I really got into skating. I mean, I was probably roller skating every day of the week, and I was always a skater. I'm going to talk a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Yes, please.
I started going to Rainbow because it was perfect, because you can go to a club in Chicago and you can party till, let's say you party till 1 o'clock. Then you could immediately go hit the midnight ramble, which is going to be from 12 to 3 o'clock. So you got your skates in the trunk. You leave the club, you go straight to the skating rink. You work off all that, energy. You get a good workout. And then after that, I mean, you're ready to lay down. So it was real good. And almost after every club, I would have my skates in the trunk, and I would be heading to the roller skating rink. So for me, to answer more of your questions, like, how did I get involved in those cultures? The thing that drew me to roller skating at a very early age is, and this is another thing that, in Chicago roller skating in Pacific, I'm going to drill back in the history a little bit, but for me, it was the DJing. A lot of people don't think of DJing when you think of roller skating, but when you think of Chicago roller skating, some of the best DJs, you're talking Sada, Shaky Sean, and you go in these places, they're playing JB after JB after JB like you've never even heard. Some of the best James Brown DJs I've ever heard in my life. Some of the best James Brown sets I ever heard in my life. And it's all done to how you're roller skating and the type of move you're going to do. And they're not just playing the records, they're bringing them back, they're cutting them in, they're doing different things. So that was the first thing that really, even at a young age, to go into the skating rink and you're hearing traditional music on the radio, but you never heard the back-to-back JBs like the Watergates and the Monorail and the the Mind Power and Make It Funky, and back to back to back to back, and the music was just so good that's actually what brought me into music, wanting to DJ, wanting to collect records, and wanting to just do music because it was so good. So that was the first thing that gravitated me towards the roller skating. And then I would skate a lot as a youngster. Loop skating rink. It was on 95th Street, somewhere in between Halsted and Dan Ryan.
Yeah, right near the Dan Ryan. Yeah.
There was nothing like it. If you had the opportunity to go there, it was nothing like it. It was a small little kiddie rink, and then it was a big rink. When it was women's only, the men would step, which is another thing in the culture of roller skate. They take their skates off. If people know Chicago JB skating, barely going to tie your skates up. Your skates are easy to take on and off, so you just slide your foot right out because they're never tied up and the tongue is down.
Right.
All of that is a part of the culture of roller skating.
Doug, you make me feel like I was born in the wrong generation, or I'm listening to you and I'm like, man, I should have been in Chicago. I should have been in this era. Like to you to talk about like thinking about DJs in the roller skating, that's where you would go as the after party. Like you had all this, folks had this energy to go and do that even after the club scene is just wild to me because I feel like this generation barely goes to the club anyway, like nighttime clubs. It's all day party stuff now. But I'm like, I'm listening to you like, and I didn't want to admit this on the podcast when I figured out that we're going to have you. I was like, I'm not going to say it, but I have to. I don't know how to skate. I don't know how to skate. Oh, wow. Yeah, I've tried it all. I don't know if it's genetics and my my coordination, but I'm like, I'm part of this generation that's soaking it all in. I'm amazed, and I'm so glad that you're here to talk about it because it's a whole other world. I mean, there's so many crossovers between, you're talking about music, skating, even just like the culture of Chicago. So, yeah, I wanted to share that.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna double back to you, but I got a cheat code for you. I used to have a roller skate shop, and we were hands down responsible for selling so many skates across the city of Chicago. Not only selling them, we would customize them, and we were one of the first, if not the first shop, to start doing mounting, like combat boots on the roller skates, boy boots on the roller skates. We even had Robin Baumgarten from Channel 9 News come down, and we put some skates on her flip-flops. We that was our thing. And what you want to do if you don't know how to skate, here's a cheat code. You have someone tighten the wheels up a little bit so the skates don't roll away from you. And sure-footed up under the skates, and it gets you your balance. And then over time, you can loosen them up once you get more and more comfortable, and it'll come right to you.
See, I needed you to teach me, so I'll have to book a lesson post this. So I'm with it.
Nah, this is. I'm glad you went into what you went into. First of all, showing that you're an entrepreneur and you're an entrepreneur early, but also showing a different side of Chicago that we rarely hear about in music. Like we'll hear Atlanta, right? And it'll be like strip clubs. That's where you drop the records and the DJing. But where we come from, it was those rinks, right? That we went to, all of the stuff that you were saying, and those DJs being there and being the ones that, again, channeled us into all the different places and spaces that we were in. And even you talking about James Brown, we say JB back home because James, spent so much time in Chicago with all of the legends that were there. So, man, I love that connection because we miss that in terms of like now is where do you break records, right? It's so much that's online, a lot of the streaming, but thank you for making that connection of showing a different side of Chicago and how that roller rink was like kind of our strip club that they talk about like down in Atlanta, or even Jermaine Dupri's recent documentary that he put out.
The Magic City. Yeah, I definitely would agree 100%. And it was open format. See, at that time in Chicago, a lot of the DJs, you're going to get one thing. You went to a house party, you're going to hear house music. I mean, underground hip hop was probably not necessarily bubbling at that same time, but when it came along, you went to underground hip hop, you're going to hear underground hip hop. But you went to a roller skating rink, you're going to hear Led Zeppelin. You're going to hear Kenny Loggins and Messina, Pathway to Glory. You're going to hear a bunch of James Brown, but then you may hear some Grover Washington Jr. Then you got the slow songs, so you're going to hear some Starship. You're going to hear some Eddie Kendricks. You're going to have it musically. You know, the type of DJing that was happening is really close to what's happening today with open format DJing. It was happening in the skating rinks in the 70s, in the 80s, in the 90s, on through. That was the case, and it was always in that vein, something you can skate to. And so that's why I think it was really close to the music. But for Chicago, if you go back to the Exposition, which is basically a World's Fair, is why we have that very Italian type of architecture on the Museum of Science and Industry and all the columns and all that. They did the whole city up. And when they did the whole city up, one of the things they premiered at that event was roller skating.
Wow.
And that happened at what they call White City, because it was kind of like limestone, and it is actually kind of adjacent to what is known today as O Block.
Oh.
Roller skating was actually premiered there at the expo, so it's a very Chicago thing. And what I have from some of the insiders that used to come to the shop that kind of ran down the history is they used to go to a skating rink and they used to call it White City, probably for multiple reasons. But for the reason that they told me, they said they used to put down some powder in the corners to help you turn because the skating wheels were like cement at the time. So they put down this powder. When you roll in the powder, you come back and you'd also be white, you know, from the powder. And that was done like in the Catholic schools, like, you know, some of the Catholic gymnasiums would open themselves up early as skating rinks. Also, a lot of the skating moves come from tap dancing.
Oh, wow.
And tap dancing is responsible for a lot of things. Tap dancing is also responsible for the rhythms you get in jazz, because before there were the drummers to the jazz music, it was the tap dancers tapping out the rhythm. So, you know, you hear those feels, you know, tap dancing. And so, you know, it goes back to tap dancing, and they would look at guys like also like Fred Astaire, Nicholas Brothers, so many great tap dancers, and take those moves and incorporate them onto roller skates. And there's a scene in Gene Kelly when he's doing the Singing in the Rain where he's actually roller skating outside and doing kind of like a tap dance style. And that style, you know, along with, you know, styles that came up from Chicago and different roller skaters, kind of created the style of roller skating. We also had Chicago Roller Skates, which is one of the biggest manufacturers of roller skates in the world, right there in Chicago off of Lake Street on the west side of Chicago. So roller skating was a big thing in the city of Chicago. And you combine that also with the winter. In the winter, when it's minus 10 degrees, when it's 0, minus 20, there's not a lot of things you can do. You can bowl.
True.
You can go to a party, or you can roller skate. But a lot of people like roller skate because it's family friendly. If you want to bring your wife and your kids and just go to an open session, you can do that. You want to do the 21 and over, you can do that as well. It's warm. You're going to get a workout. You're going to hear the music. It's like a club, but it's not exactly a club. I mean, you go to a skating rink like Glenwood, they have valet parking. Everybody dressed to a T. I mean, they coming out with furs. They coming out jeans. I press, you know, they looking like, you know, they going to the club, you know, like it is really cultural thing there. So when you talk about the roller skating, that's just kind of like my short, because I can go on and on about it.
Nah, man, this is love, but this is. I mean, we wanted to talk, you know, a bit about your origin story, and this is a huge, you know, part of how you even flowed into music. It's interesting for me because it's like I think about it while I'm talking to you, like, man, you, No ID, Common. I met all of you outside of Chicago for the first time. Right, like, and it's like Common and No ID, you know, being in L.A., you know, linking in his studio there. Dion, No ID, Dion, you know, spell back, flip it, you know, you got it. He invited me in and allowed, you know, my artists to come in and make some great music with him while I was launching, you know, Fusion and stuff. And we did it around Grammy week. And then Common happened to be, you know, in there doing his album at that point in time too, working on that. So it was just like a wild kind of thing to happen. And then the interns was down the block, right, to and coast and all of this. So it's just crazy to see how far we've made it outside of Chicago and where we started. But when I think about you're part of that, you know, triangle offense, right? Shout out to the Bulls, Jordan. But we look at y'all as that too. Like there's part of this triangle offense that's like you, Dion, Twilight Tone, but then there's this triangle offense that's you, Dion, and Common. And how we really actually, the world kind of got introduced to Common was through y'all sounds. How did that come together? How did y'all, you know, through it all come together and make what we now know and see out there in the music world for Chicago, like being that true foundation of Chicago hip hop?
It happened organically. You know, one of the greatest things is that Chicago was so entrenched in house music, which we all love. If you were ever going to, you know, get a girlfriend or go to a party with any type of women or have some fun, it was going to be house music in Chicago, or get together at somebody's house that they were still playing house music in. And so it was the top. I mean, I think even a radio station at that time, they used to say, we don't play any of that hip hop. Do you remember that? It was I don't want to call the radio out, but that was their like call slogan. You won't hear any hip hop on this radio. So that kind of made it organically, because that meant that hip hop was truly a subculture, and that, you know, it moved in these circles that were way below the line of what was going on the everyday. And so in moving in those circles, I was always just trying to, you know, I was definitely deep into hip hop because I was a b-boy from, you know, my freshman year of high school on, and I was aggressive and going out and being a part of what was happening, and canvassing my neighborhood, looking for people to battle, you know, the whole thing, the whole culture. So, and I did a tape with a guy named Smooth OZ. I was rapping at the time, and I wasn't doing beats, and he's just such a cool dude, and he had his own ideas of what he was going to do, and he was really pursuing them. And he just looked at me one day and he said, "Man, you're really picky. Maybe you should try to make your own music." And I was like, you know, it just stuck with me. And I know that he meant it from, you know, from love. Like, yeah, you probably have something in you musically that you need to get out. And that pushed me towards production, and saved up my nickels for as long as I could. It was, you know, the barrier to enter. I mean, a drum machine back in those days cost $3,200, brand new.
It's like 30 grand now.
Yeah, I wish. Now, they're about 10. They're going up, but they're not, you know, they're not that expensive. Equivalent, yeah. You know, put it this way, it was a guy on my on one of my neighbor's friends' block that was selling a cherry red drop top Corvette for $5,000. I'm like, man, 3,200 just got you the drum machine. No wires, no mic, no, you know, no. I'm like, a Stingray, you know, the Corvette $1,000 now, you know what I mean? Yeah. So the barrier to enter to do it was really high. But once I started doing it, I did it for as long as I could at home. You know, my dad convinced me that, you know, I was actually shaking the bricks loose on the building, you know, with all day, you know, all day. Just meaning that, man, it was just too much. And I know it was too much because I had the volume on 12, and I was just, you know, it was a big 808 and I'm booming it. And so that kind of drove me to do a studio outside of the house. South side of Chicago storefronts were fairly cheap. At that time, you could get them pretty cheap, cheaper than you could probably rent an apartment to stay in. You probably could have got a storefront. So I did a little storefront, and a guy I went to high school with, who was a house DJ, would come through and sell African-American type of literature. Chains with fists on them, all types of things. You know, he would go from barbershop to barbershop. You know, he put me on his route. So I would play chess with Frank Washington, and he would be like, "Man, you got to meet my man, No ID. He do this beats. He does what you do, you know, with this hip hop stuff. And, you know, he's like, I'm gonna bring him through." And he brought him through. DI came through, and he played a game of chess. Everybody always asks me who won that game. I don't know. I don't remember. The game didn't matter. What mattered is that we had something that we did in common, which was could play chess. And we had a record store that was down the street. I think we went record shopping that day. We were both in the read and kind of scientific. I think his name was Immense Slope. At the same time, he went by No ID. He also went by Immense Slope, which is a mathematical term. You know, it's like all this scientific. So we could meet on that kind of level. And he brought Common through, and he brought beats through that were amazing. That was super advanced. I mean, these guys already at the time had been, you know, all in New York and been running around with the beat nuts, and you know the beat nuts are great, and that sells. So the lineage is kind of like spilling out that way, musically, you know, where you know you beat nuts and you Common, you know, label mates, and it's filtering down into me and to others below it. So that's how it kind of happened organically. And once Common started coming up there, he would bring an entourage that would come with him. Dion would bring an entourage that would come with him. At the time, I was going to Chicago State University, and Kanye West's mother, Donda West,
rest in peace,
was my English teacher, was my speech teacher, and she was, you know, I did a paper about owning a studio, and she questioned me, was that real? I was like, yeah, it's real. She's like, it's a nice place. I was like, yeah, I'm nice. It's a nice place. It's in Beverly, and I'm a good kid. You can check with my aunt. She works there. You check with my aunt that works there. They talk. She's like, oh, no, he's a good kid. He fits all in that music. And she's like, well, I want to bring my son there. She brings her son there, who turns out to be Kanye West. So now you got,
wow,
you got Common, you got No ID, you got Kanye West, you got Just Row, you got the Row, he who walks three ways. You got all these kids from Lower Links and these kids from the neighborhood, and you got you know, I don't want to, you know, I'd forget anybody, you know, Juke and all of, you know, my friends and all, you know, just a menagerie of people. Was just a place to be, you know.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, alone, I mean, just those names alone, all in one real making beats, and the mic is always hot and everybody's rapping and freestyling. So you can imagine the type of places.
Shay was probably in there, Rhyme Fest.
Yeah, and everybody's competing to. Back then, all the beats was made on floppy disks, so you couldn't play them fast, right? So while somebody else is loading up a beat, somebody else is moving in with their machine and plugging it up and playing their beats, you know, be it Kanye, be it No ID, be it just for anybody, you know, and load up another one, move him out the way and play it. And that's the kind of how we did. I think we eventually even got one of those like 4-channel mixers, and we just had everything hooked up, and we would just do those sessions.
Wow.
And I think we all got better from that. I know we all got better from that because I saw us getting better. I heard it better.
That's the magic. That's the magic of like the vinyl crew, right? Meeting organically in person, whether it's a record shop or at chess or in school, right? Meeting Kanye West's mom, like all of those interconnected pieces. So much has changed in the way DJs, producers, and artists even just meet today. Right here, we're seeing, you know, new artists, producers, DJs saying, oh, I saw your TikTok. Oh, I saw your Instagram. Let's collab. You slide in the DM. Like, more of what we see today. So it's like refreshing to hear just like real in-person stories, you know, and I'm curious, like, because I love listening to pioneers who are experts in their crafts, who are the first to do something, right, and are good at it. Like, now that you've seen the evolution, right, of what you had to go through, because I think about digging in the crates, you talk about a record store. I don't see a lot of DJs talking about that part of their learning and their journey of like really digging the crates, looking for samples, original, you know, sounds and beats. And today, you know, it's like you can find, if you want to find a song or a sample, you can take your phone out and you can use Shazam, right? And Shazam will tell you the song, will tell you the app or the song from the app. So I want to know, like, from you, what do you think about the process today for DJs? Like, are you impressed by these new DJs? Could there be something they could be schooled on a little bit? I really want to know what your perspective is on these new DJs.
Okay, first of all, I use Shazam. I'll use it. You know, one of these things I do is like I go to thrift stores, and if I see like old cassette tapes that people have recorded, I just get them because I'm curious of what's on them. And sometimes I hear a song I never heard, and I have to Shazam it and see what it is, and I'm like, okay, and then I go try to get the record. So I'm a fan of that. But one thing I'm very careful not to do, and I see people doing it a lot, and it's fine, and I'm not, you know, everybody has their own thing, but I don't really compare the generations, production or DJ, because for one, with the production equipment, right now, if you're producing something, you have vocals, you just can do it on a computer. You can cut it, you can move it to how you want. But we had a reel to reel. There's no waveform. You have to take a razor blade out and cut it and find out where it can meet up, splice it back together, rewrap it on the reel. You got to have a synth and a sync. So it was just totally different. Back then with the DJ in the same way, the mixers you didn't have echo, you didn't have any effects, you just had vinyl, a crossfader, and what you were good at, and no waveform, no BPM, none of that. You had to work it out on your own. So it's kind of hard I would never compare the two. I do love that people can get into DJing now at a much lower price because, it used to cost a lot of money to DJ. I mean, just your equipment. Just your Technique 1200s was going to set you back a couple grand, and then you got a mixer, and then you don't even have any records. So now someone can actually get the equipment and start DJing for a fairly cheap price. That's good. It's always good for people to be able to, get in at the entry level. But I think that the thing I don't like about it, I'm going to give you the pros, I'm going to give you the con. The thing I don't like about it is if you DJ and you just DJing digitally, you got some songs that you're streaming. You got some songs, you got off iTunes, and you got some DJ equipment. Let's just say you just did it for 15 years and you decided that, you're about to move on. You got your kids, you got your family. You're going to DJ, but not like that, right? None of that stuff you bought, the songs you bought on the digital songs, they're worthless. They're something to you personally, but they don't have the resale value. Now, you take that same DJ that's out there digging and he's going to the record store for 15 years and he's just buying in 15 years. He turns around and he sells his collection. He's going to get something. So for me, from a retrospective idea, I would be like, man, I'm glad I didn't just get all digital because at least if I just say, give me $5 a record and just take them all, at least, you're going to walk away with something. And you may even have something that's even more valuable. So that's kind of like a pro and a con from the digital versus the vinyl.
Yeah.
I like getting vinyl because I like everything that it does. It brings you out of the community, takes you out of your house, out of your community, takes you to a mom and pop, somewhere locally, a store that you're still supporting, brick and mortar that you don't even see that too much nowadays. Like you said, you're digging, you're looking for something, you find something that you really like, be it for sampling or DJing. And I mean, we even used to do road trips, go to other cities. Whenever my daughter goes out of town, out the country, she's big on this. She likes to go out the country, and she'll always go to a record store and bring me records back from that country.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's something in that it's an exchange that makes it all work. And they've seen this their whole life, so they know this, and it's also something that when they look at it years and years later and they're looking at it, they're like, oh man, I gave this to my dad when I went to Spain. Or I wonder where my dad, I put Post-it notes on some of them, like, yeah, I bought this at such and such, such and such gave me this, so it becomes that type of thing too. So I'm all about vinyl, and I think that it's something that's going to be around. I mean, and it's on the Spaceship Challenger, they put a vinyl record. Or not the Challenger, the Voyager, the one that's going out there. They put a vinyl record, and then I asked myself, why a vinyl record? Why didn't they put a CD or a tape or something? And it's like, because it would probably be too hard for somebody to, they would need that machine, that operating system on the computer to fire it up. But with a record, they can figure out how to get some sound from it and they can listen to it. So if they're putting it on the Voyager, then I'm definitely really good with vinyl. And the only thing I would say for the new DJs is it's like sports. If you can only DJ vinyl and on the controller, then you can only dribble to the right. You can only bat on the right. Somebody's situation, you walk into it and it's turntables, you should be able to do that too, which would make you a more versatile DJ, just like dribbling on your right, dribbling on your left, shooting on your right, shooting on your left, batting on your right, batting on your left. You kind of, if you're going to experience and really put that tag on your name to be a DJ, learn it all.
Man, that's dope. And I can actually
better.
Yeah, and I can attest to what you're saying because we're we're amongst a text group of DJs, and it's funny to get the
group chat.
A group chat. Well, there you go. See, that's the vinyl stuff. That's me saying that. That sounded, that's real good. I see what you did there. Yeah, group chat we're a part of, and it's always cool when we hear about somebody about to go out of business, or there's a sale or something going, and then all the DJs coming in and figuring out road trips to get to these places and stuff. So I love that, you even brought that up, and even brought the family into it, because we want to talk a little bit, about that. The one thing that I know, and I want to throw out there, we know it, but the world doesn't necessarily know it. But we'll say the one thing about a Chicago man is he's a great father. And that's one of the things that I really, really know and appreciate about you. You just brought your daughter in there, your son. Like, I've been around you. I see you, and I don't see you without knowing that you bring that father, into this and all of the things that you do.
Wait, hold on.
Okay, my
bad.
Are
you saying you just kind of plugged Chicago dads? I'm just gonna sidebar right real quick. So for any single women that was like looking for a good partner and a good daddy, you're talking about you got to go to Chicago or somebody from Chicago. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah. I'm saying we are great fathers.
Noted. Viral generation. Note that. Chicago daddies. Got it. Sorry. I just had to throw that out there.